و سرویس هاشون هم مجانی هست. سرویس های متفاوتی دارن مثل کلاس های فرانسوی، تمام کارهای مربوط به مدارک برای مهاجرت، چون مدارک خب خیلی زیاده، و همچنین خدماتی برای پیدا کردن کار. امروز چیزی که قرار نشون بدن نسبتاً کلی هست و به درد همه انشالله بخوره. اما اگه شما دیدین که یه چیز شخصی تر و خاص‌تر نسبت به پروفایل خودتون نیاز داشتین، میتونین با اینا در تماس باشین. اینا این سرویس ها رو شخصی هم میدن که قشنگ میبینن که پروفایل شما چی از دنبال چه جور کاری میگردین، کمک میکنن برای مصاحبه ها، برای آماده کردن CV و غیره. توی پاورپوینتشون آدرس و راه ارتباطی با اینا هست. کارتاشون رو هم قراره پخش بکنن در انتهای جلسه. اگه در طول جلسه هم سوالی برای شما پیش اومد، روی کاغذ یادداشت کنین یا ذهنتون داشته باشین. آخر برنامه آقایون میتونن سوالاشون رو بپرسن و بعدش خانوما هم میتونن در خدمت این دو دوست عزیزمون باشن، چون میخوان برن بالا و جواب سوالای خانوما رو هم بدن. خیلی ممنون. الان دیگه شروع میکنم.
Hi everyone. Today the workshop is about how to make an effective CV writing. First I'm gonna do a general presentation about the organization that we're from, PROMI, and then a general presentation about what's the CV, what is his use. Then we're gonna see the main sections of the CV, how to write a targeted CV, what does it mean, and the basic CV etiquette, the presentation in which you should have the CV, and at the end we should have the advice, and then there will be a period of questions. So, the organization that we're from is called PROMI. You can find it at the address 3333 Côte Sainte-Catherine. We offer free services to immigrants in order to help them in their socio-economic integration in Quebec. The objective of this workshop is to give you a better understanding of what the employer is looking for in a CV and what is the best way to present it to attract the recruiter, the eye of the recruiter. Next. So, the CV should always highlight your skills and your abilities that are related to the job offer. Why, you ask? Because the employer is looking for your experiences and your abilities, not necessarily for your education first, unless you're a student who just graduated. Because he's interested in what you can do, what is it that you have acquired as abilities and competences in your past experience. So it should be more about your experience than your education. Also, the CV should be strategic and customized depending on the job you're applying for. We're gonna see that later in another diapositive. Sorry for the French. So, it should also be concise. This means that you have to pick carefully what informations you want to put in the CV to present to the employer. You can't put all your experience or all the things that you've done. You have to put what are the most related to the job offer you're applying for.
If I could add something, I think we're all tempted to put everything we've done because we all have so much experience, but the employer is going to look at only a little bit. So we have to pick out the most important things and leave the rest.
Yeah, that's very well said. Then the CV should be easy to read to attract the eye of the recruiter. To give you an idea, the recruiter spends less than 10 seconds looking at your CV. That's why it should include keywords that can attract really fast the attention of the person who reads it, because you want to go in the yes pile, not in the no pile, or the c'est ça. Finally, the main goal of doing a good CV is to get an interview. So that's why you're doing a good CV is so important, because it's the way that you're gonna take off from the other candidate.
Oh yeah, to stand out from the other.
To stand out. Yeah. Next. Okay, so here are the main sections that you should find in the CV. First of all, there are the personal information, and the rest of the sections can be interchangeables. It depends on what is the most important things you want the employer to see first. So the professional experience, the professional profile, the education, and the other sections that you can put, but they are just...
you can choose to put them or not.
Next. So first of all, the personal information. We should find your name and then your family name. The name comes always first, so that the employer know what to call you when he calls you. It doesn't call you by your name. It's more formal this way. Also, there is your address, the city you live in, the province, the zip code, the telephone number to reach you. Be sure to activate your voicemail, because if the employer tries to reach you and he can't, then you'll lose an opportunity to have an interview and a job, and that's the main goal here. So also the email, it's very important to have a professional email. For example, if you use your personal email, like Little Mary at yahoo.ca versus mary.schul@yahoo.ca, the second one is much more professional, and you're gonna be taken seriously by the employer, but not with the first one. Next, please. So here's an example of what it should look like in your CV. So here we find the name in first, Mary Elizabeth, Schul at the end, the address, the city, province, zip code, etc. Next. The next section is the professional experience. It should present itself like this. First, you put the job title that you have. At the right, you should put the year that you worked there. If you worked there more than 2 years, you put 2002 to 2005. For example, under that, you write the name of the company you worked for, not the domain of the company, but the name, and the city in which the company was. You should always put 3 to 6 tasks to to describe what you were doing in this job title and use action verbs. The tasks that you put there must always be relevant to the job offer. For example, if you're applying for a job, I don't know, as an employment counselor like me, I'm gonna put the tasks that highlights what the employer wants me to do, and not all the tasks that I did by the past, just the ones that are really important. You can use the same tasks that are in the job offer and the job description and change the vocabulary a little bit. Like this, you catch the eyes of the recruiter very fast, and he said to he can say to himself, "Oh, that's exactly what I'm looking for. Maybe this CV is interesting." Next, please. Here's an example of what it should look like. So here the person wrote she was a software engineer. She worked 2015 to present, this time present. The name of the technology is the company, Atlas Technology, Chicago, USA. And then she chose to put only 3 tasks, but they are the more relevant to the job she's applying for. So that's why she chose only 3. She can put 5 or 6, but the most important thing to remember is your CV has to be very short, because the person doesn't have time to read it all in the first time. So really pick keywords to catch the eye. Next. The next section is about your professional profile. It means what you did and what you possess as qualities and qualifications. We should find the years of experience you have in your field, your qualifications, your area of expertise, your specialization, depending on what you're working for. If you are a member of a professional order, that's really important. You can put it first before the years of experience, because sometimes it's the most important information to know if you want to work as a professional. Same thing for card-holding member of an association. You can also put your personal skills that are relevant to the job, because sometimes the employer wants to know how you can manage situation, what are your personality like, and I'm gonna give example in the next slide. Your language skills and computer skills should also be in there, so that the employer know what language you speak and how much you're good on computer. So here's an example of a nurse. She writes she has 10 years of experience as a nurse in neonatal and urgent care. Her computer skills, she just wrote MS Office, Internet Explorer, Clara, etc. Clara can be like a program that nurse used. After that, she has to write, she's a member of the Ordre des infirmières et infirmiers du Québec. This cannot translate because it's an order that doesn't have a translation in English. It's a Québécois, so that's why. Her specialization is neonatal care, obstetrics, and emergency care. And then here are her personal skills. She wrote excellent report writing and other administrative correspondence, excellent communication with patients and staff because she wants the employer to know that she's good to communicate with people. She doesn't have problem with that. Capacity to work under pressure if you're a nurse is very important. Same thing, teamwork, leadership, adaptability to change. It's important for the employer to know that in her field.
I think these last things are things that are difficult to learn, and so you have to think about what am I really good at in things that I've learned outside of school. How do I relate to other people? And you're totally encouraged to put those things on your CV to make you stand out again to your employer.
Yeah, exactly. Next one. So the section about education is quite simple. You have to write the name of the diploma you have. Do not write any abbreviation because it can be unclear for the person who reads it. The year you obtained, you graduated, and under that you have to write the educational institution that in which you had your diploma, and the city where was located your educational institution. It's important to know that the equivalencies of your diploma must be included in this. So if you have I don't know, in France they will say baccalauréat en lettres. Baccalauréat is not the same thing au Québec as it is in France. So it's not l'équivalence ici would be collegial, but there it would be university. So we have to make sure it's the same, we speak the same language.
You want to make sure that you're communicating in a way that the potential employer can understand. You have to know your audience.
Yeah. So the level of study you must be written according to the Quebec system. To help you can see the Ministry of Immigration and the paper he gave you for equivalency. Here's an example. First, the person did a technique en soins infirmières and nursing in Quebec, so at the Collège de Rosemont. And the other, bac lettres, is translated as a high school diploma here in Quebec. So it's not really a bachelor degree. For us, it's high school diploma. And she writes lycée de la Menne Kérouan, Tunisie. She writes the place she did it, so the institution of education and the country.
With the first one, for example, if you're at somewhere like HEC and you're getting something en gestion maybe, or you're getting a diploma that's going to be in French. If the potential employer is an English speaker, then definitely put a translation next to it so that they can read it even easier.
Yeah, exactly. Next one, please. So, how to customize your CV? That's the important part, because every time you send a CV, you have to make sure that it's personalized for the person you're sending it to. Because sometimes you send it to be, a technician engineer in a company that's private, and then you send it for the government. Well, they are not the same people, they don't have the same requirements. That's why you have to do personalization of your CV and of your letter of presentation. That would be another thing, but it comes together. So when you read the job description, you have to think of connections between the principal tasks that are demanded and your qualifications and experience, so that they are linked, they correspond. You understand? Also, you have to be aware of the job title and the job requirements, because sometimes the name of the job can be different in Quebec than what you are used to. Like maybe, I don't know anything, engineer in your country would translate as technician in engineering here. It's not the same level of diploma. For example, if you search for a job in healthcare fields, it's important to specify if you're searching as a certified professional or as a technician with vocational training, because professional means you have university level and the other you have collegial level. That's the same for engineer. If you search for engineer and you put that you are an engineer in your CV and you don't get calls, that's because maybe you didn't, the order of the engineers of Quebec, you have to be a member of the order of the engineers. That's it. Finally, the basic CV etiquette, how to do the best presentation possible. Well, you have to use A4 paper or letter, which means it's 8.5 by 11. No image in the background of your CV, or color in your writing. You use the bold font and underlining only for the section titles and for your name, because you want it to pop out, but the rest should be in font, in normal font. Also, use the same font throughout all your CV, because it can be really hard to read if you don't use the same font everywhere. You should also use an easily readable font for the person to read, and sometimes it can be computer who reads the CV first, and then they catch keywords, so you can use keywords and easy font like Arial or Times New Roman. Do not use abbreviations or use automatic translator, because well, it can cause surprises. You all know the best way to translate your CV is to do it and then have a native speaker reread it and correct it, or come see us, an employment counselor. Finally, the CV should be 2 pages maximum, unless you have a lot of experience. Then it can be 3 pages, but the norm is 2 pages. So, the must-do for the CV. You should always adapt and tailor your CV to the job offer, as I repeat often in this presentation. You should use a diversified vocabulary and use keywords that are related to the job offer. For that, you can go see the job description. Also, list the elements of your CV in chronological order, from the more recent to the more
The older.
the oldest. the more recent in top, for sure. Make sure each section is clearly separated so that the person doesn't have ask himself, oh, is this the experience or is this the profile? I'm not sure. So it has to be like underlined and bold so the person knows. Finally, the information that you put must be clear and concise, so no long sentences. We keep it brief. And the advice about what not to do in the CV, well, do not write or give confidential information on the CV. For example, your age and birthday, your civil status, about your marriage, or about your status as an immigrant, etc. All of this is confidential. Information about the children, if you have children or no, it's not relevant for the employer. Your social insurance number. You should never lie on the CV because it's not good and it can
come back to haunt you.
Thank you. I was searching the expression. You should not make spelling errors or typos because it looks unprofessional, and when the employers see that, your CV ends up in the garbage
and
pile.
Nobody wants that.
Yeah, nobody wants that. It's like this. Do not be repetitive in your CV. You have to choose the information relevant, but if some information repeats themselves, then cut them. Just keep the most relevant. You don't use long sentences, as I said before. Do not put your academic results unless the employer demands it. Do not put a photo of yourself, and do not put a photocopy of ID. So that would be the end of the advice. Finally, thank you for your presence here. I want to say it was a pleasure to give this presentation to you. If you have questions, I will take them.
بلندگو رو میدم بهتون با بلند
better not to put the date of birth inside the resume. How about the graduation date or date of bachelor? Because by looking at date of bachelor, it's easily you can.
No, not necessarily, because some people do their bachelor at 40 years old, so it doesn't mean anything.
I'm going to repeat the question. The question was, you said you shouldn't put your date of birth, but if you put your bachelor date, the date you got your bachelor's degree, then it's easy to find out when the birthday was. And so the response was, sorry, what was the response?
Yeah, you should never, I said, it's true, they can deduce your age by the diploma. If you put your high school diploma, then they can deduce approximately your age, but the main idea here is to not put this information like a lot of people put the birthday and or age in the information, personal information, the first section, and that section is the first thing the employers see. So you don't want him to know already, oh, okay, he's 45, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it will come fast when he sees your diploma already.
I get the
Question.
I have one question for you. How about the address? do we need to put the exact address there, or it should be only city or maybe postal code also gives the building?
No, you should always put the address because it gives an idea of to the employer where you live, and if I mean it's even if you don't put it, he can find you in another way with your postal code or whatever. But you have to put it before, because it looks weird, and
It's just expected. I don't work in employment services, so I can't say why, but it is expected to put the whole thing, including even your apartment number.
They can apply for a credit card with those information if they
No,
have
no,
the birthday,
no,
name,
because- No,
address.
don't put your birthday. But that's why. Don't
Yeah,
put your
that's-
birthday or your social insurance number.
yeah.
So they just get your address, and you should
Yeah.
be fine.
Well, I have one question that my friend was pointing out. He talked to some at the Jardin or some financial. They asked for photo. They said you should have photo on your resume. We expect that. And I heard in Europe also people put photos in the resumes.
Here or
Yeah, the Jardin here. is-
Desjardins. Well, if they ask for it, me personally, I don't see the use of it, because
It can be discrimination. If
Yeah.
you're not
Yeah.
looking good, they might not
Yeah.
hire you.
that's it. It's you can't say no because it's pratique discriminatoire.
I think it's discriminatory, and I would
Yeah.
actually say I'm pretty sure it's illegal for them to require a photo.
Yeah, like the photo, the only time that photo are required is if you're an actress or a dancer. Like this is normal for it's the artistic community, but à part ça, no.
No, but I think you put the nail on the head, like, or you hit the nail on the head, that if they see you, then they might discriminate against you. So that's not something that you should feel required to do at all.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. I just want to know if you can give us some general figures of, let's say, how many years of experience do you have in this field, and number of clients or successful clients that you have found actually a job for them, if they were successful in doing an interview, and because there are lots of similar companies and even NGOs that are doing this kind of work. And if you can just categorize them, because some of them are quite expertise in engineering field, the other was in the health field, the other like this ones. If you have any figures or something like that, thank you.
So, I don't think that we have those numbers off the top of our heads, but it's a great question. I just wrote it down. So I'm going to take people's emails if they want, and we'd be happy to send the response to that specific question, either to Javad or to everybody, so we can figure that out. But I think that's really important because you want to know, can we respond to your needs? So let me get back to you on that and make sure that we respond to them.
کسی سوال دیگه نداره؟
من یه سوالی
بله.
دارم. Thank you for the presentation. My question is about after submission of our resume to some job post. Do you suggest to follow up our application, because generally we just receive kind of auto reply from the companies?
Yeah, absolutely.
We receive, or thank you for your application. How about follow up?
Yeah, absolutely. Do a follow-up always. That's another thing that I wasn't gonna present in my presentation because I don't have a lot of time. But you bring a very good point. Each time you send a CV to someone, you should have an Excel table with all the places you send, their address, their phone number, and you should give them 1 to 2 weeks, and then you call them back to see where is going your CV, how is going the procedure, the processus, you know.
You mean 2-3 days after applying or more?
1 week or two. Give them time to look at it, because sometimes they can be swamped in CV, and they receive it like Monday, and they give them 1 week to receive all the CV, and then they will look at it.
Okay, so I wanted to know if you have any specific advices for people who are starting fresh. Let's say someone is like out of the education and hasn't much like experiences, maybe some casual or contingent work experiences, or maybe even not even such experiences. So do you have some advices like how to compensate such a thing?
Somebody who doesn't have much work experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, it's students often are like this. So the best way for them is to put their experience of their work as a student, and the skills, the personal skills they have acquired, so that it shows to the employer. Maybe I don't have a lot to give because I didn't acquire a lot of competences, but I'm a fast learner. I can do this, I can do that, and I'm like this.
I think when she was talking about personalizing your CV for the job you're looking for, it's tempting to follow the exact order that you see, but in a case like that where you don't have professional experience yet, put the education first, put the emphasis on the education and the personal skills that you've developed in your education, leave the professional part at the bottom, because that's not your highlight.
That's why at the beginning of the presentation I said the sections were interchangeables, because it depends on your personal experience and what you're looking for. Because if your personal experience is like you have 15 years as a nurse, but you want to reinvent yourself as a counselor, well, your years as a nurse is like maybe not the one you want to highlight in your CV.
I have one more question. One question that I'm not sure if you can answer, but when we are looking for a job for the compensation, is there any way that we can get advice from from you guys or recruiters or somebody how much we should ask for when they say what's your expectation of the salary? Is there any way that we can get those numbers, kind of market values, from the recruiter or from the person who advises us?
Yeah, well, you can go, the counselor like us, we can look on the site internet, you know, on internet. There are
Yeah, there are websites that are specialized for that, so our employment counselors could help you to have that question ready.
Yeah.
That's a really good question that you're asking, because I know from personal experience you're like,
you don't want to go too high.
How much do I worth? Yeah.
Yeah. But like there are table, like if you're a beginner, like there are websites with some job title, and then there are if you have 5 years of
It's like Glassdoor or those websites, or there are a specific website, just kind of professional website? Because general website like Glassdoor or LinkedIn, or they have some numbers, sometimes they give us some hints, but is there any data that you have access to as kind of a counselor or?
No, we have to work with the information that's there for everyone, but we can ask our partner or employers. We can go ask these questions, but sometimes we try our best to help our clients.
And they might know about Quebecois websites that immigrants might not know about. So there are things that are available for everybody, but again, like I don't know where to go, so I would go down the hall and ask my colleagues, like, hey, how much should I save for this software engineering position? I have no idea how much I'm worth. I think it's a great question. And if you were to come into our offices, we could help you with that.
Thank you for your information. I just have one question that's related to the mostly interviews. One question that most of the employers ask that, what is your weakness points?
Yeah.
I want to know what is your ideas for answering these questions in a way that it doesn't have a lot of effect on the decision, and the other hand, there was some things acceptable from their point of view.
You just said it. It's a killer question because you want it to be acceptable, but you want it to be realistic to give the employer the real thing. So the best thing I can say to you is be authentic. Do soul searching, la veille, and come up with three main things you want to improve about yourself. So not necessarily think that you say, oh, I'm gonna stay like this for the rest of my life, but things at work, not necessarily in your life in general, but at work that you know you can. In the past, maybe you had the difficulty, but you can work on it. Like, oh, I'm not that good in technology, but I'm working on it and I'm taking a course on the weekends. Or sometimes I can be short when I'm under pressure, so I'm working on it with my colleagues to be more nice.
And just so you know, our employment services could do mock interviews with you and really help you perfect the answer to that question, because every interview has that question. So you have to be ready for it. And so if you wanted to come in and talk to our counselors about it, they could actually help you really perfect your answer to that for you, because you don't have the same answer as everybody else. You want it to stand out. So yeah, you should come in.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We're here to help you, not only on the CV, but about the interview, your letter of presentation, your job search, everything. So we accompany you with a whole package.
So thank you very much for your presentation and your answers. خانوما سوالاشون رو آماده داشته باشن. الان دوستان عزیز ما میان بالا و شما میتونید سوالاتون رو ازشون بپرسید.